So today in the shop, we did a very aggressive day of preparing one side of the wheel. I tried to divide the job in half. We're waiting for the decals, so there was no point belaboring that issue. We just put that on the back burner. Got dug in right away on the first side of the wheel. The side with all the lettering usually takes a lot longer than the side without the lettering. It's a big job getting rid of that lettering. I showed some of the tricks and some of the tips I used with the Dremel tool, with the wire brushes, with all the tools. But ultimately, at the end, you've got to sand apart a lot of it by hand, and it's very time consuming. But over the course of the day, we did get it done, and we have the first half of the wheel done. And we showed an amazing trick, is how to fill up a cabinet with a case of coffee. That's somewhere on the video. I don't know where, but it's fun to see. So once again, we wake up, unpredictable weather. Something new in the thing they work around. Anyway, we do have errands to run today, so I'm not sure how the day's going to play out, and that's the way I like it. And I think Karen likes it that way too. But we are ready to start grinding on the wheel. We got the parts bike up on blocks yesterday, and despite some really brutal weather, it snowed all afternoon. I got everything shoveled. I'm ready to get inside and have coffee and get started on this day and see what Karen has planned. In this time of year, no day is complete without flipping all the battery charges, just walking around to see if a mouse took a bite out of a tire, anything, the roof is leaking. Yeah, when you have 100-year-old stuff, you never know, there's always a surprise. Anyway, it looks like we're pretty good to go. The battery charges are all set. The bike's up on blocks. I got a lot of work to do on that wheel to grind it away, and hopefully we're done with the snow for a while. In those pictures I shared yesterday riding the Evil Twin up to Moodna, boy, was that a memorable ride, and I have been up there so many times. It's one of my favorite places to ride. And what's even more fun, I'm going to start off the year with a relatively the newest bike in my fleet. I haven't had a bike this new in 10 years, so 11 years. Every time you think it's 6, it's 8. Every time you think it's 10, it's 15. Anyway, we are really looking forward to... At the end of last year, when I got this bike on a very unexpected thing, it was very unexpected. I fell in love with it right away, and that love affair has gone on. I think we got almost 5,000 miles on it now. And we already had to put a back tire on it. We got a flat with the bike. I guess that's good luck for the future. And speaking of custom wheels, a labor of love. Love my custom wheels. And I know Dallas is going to be sharing some pictures with us soon. But I always think that just adds such a nice touch to the bike. And it is truly a labor of love. And if the trick is just take enough coffee breaks along the way, and somewhere in your future, you'll have custom wheels. But we got to get started on our project today. And I made sure yesterday when I did my shoveling, I cleaned off the painting table over there, just in case. Just in case. You never know when it's never gonna... We get that last snow of the year. Oh boy. The birds will be chirping. Oh, it's good to be inside. Even though it's not really that cold today as it was the days before. The coffee always tastes better when you come in out of that garage. I wonder if the birds think that it tastes better when it's cold out. Oh! So after a great cup of coffee, coming into the shop early in the morning, I always like to see how my project was working from the day before. We did most of the cleaning yesterday. It's pretty well clean now. We'll be ready to start grinding away at some of these lettering and some of these casting. Now see, the whole thing here is, the objective is, same as the back wheel, is to make the cast, all the areas on this they're cast and plated. They have that like sand cast look. Well, what I want to do is from that, I want to turn that sand casting into this. And that's the crux of this whole set of videos, is to make the sand cast wheel look like a machined wheel. So I got an email from John Pothier the other day. I forgot to include this on the video, about how his friend, who is a body man, does color blends. And I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag now. I'm going to try to show that next time we do a color blend. Now, even though I've used my method, the step method, I'm always looking for new methods, always looking for new ways to do things. I try to never do the same job twice over and over again, and the color blends on this part, I couldn't find the color blend. Karen couldn't find it, so, but we are waiting for the decals, and of course we have no control over that. In the meantime, we're going to work on our front wheel. And one of the things I like to get rid of, if I'm going to do any custom wheel, they always have these, I guess it's Japanese law or something. They always have all these little things cast into the wheel, and I want to get rid of them. This wheel, they're all on one side too. So that's going to be, and I always start with that as being the first thing to take care of, because that's one of the most annoying things and time-consuming things. So I'm going to work on that a little bit this morning, because I'm waiting for Karen to come up with our marching orders for the day. We do have to shop. That's the problem. We eat all this beautiful food that Karen makes, but we do have to replenish once in a while. So the first thing is to take out my bucket of grinding, and especially those little Dremel tool bits that we've been using, my box with the wire brushes, a couple extra spare drills, and I'm so glad I got those fresh buckets not that long ago. Get organized, because I knew I was going to use them in this project. So one of the tools I found real handy since the day I bought it was the Harbor Freight, the little, I call it the fake Dremel tool. It really is inexpensive. And I went to Amazon and bought, I think it was $10 for 100. All of these bags were $10. It also included, and I've used every one of these things, it had at least 50 of these mandrels. And so what I did, because I was buying these Dremel tool things that are $4 or $5 a piece, and I've found uses for every one of these, and they're all available on Amazon at, I say $10, it may have been 11, it may have been 9, but especially these little buffing balls and everything. So if you're doing any kind of serious grinding, I think this is just a good place to start. Now these are not as high quality as the Dremel tool ones were, for sure, but the one thing they're replaceable. And when you're doing anything with sandpaper, it wears out quickly anyway. So you may as well just buy the cheapest one and keep replacing it. I always have a story. It's like buying a grill. No matter how many times you clean a grill, after so many years, it's just junk and it rusts away. So, and in fact, this is our year to get a new grill. Now, it doesn't really matter how you get rid of that. You can do it with a file, a grindstone, doesn't matter at all. You got to get rid of it though if you want to have that, what I like, that nice, I don't want to see little things along the rim. And that's what I want. I just want to see that light go right around the whole rim as it moves. I don't want to see it, oh, made in Japan, made in Poland, made in China, decals are in Australia. I don't want to see any of that. I want to see one nice Now one little tip that may be worth having is I've gone from using the biggest diameter one and then down to a smaller one, and let me show you why. Because what happens as this grinds away, and I've been working the whole thing, I want to get that whole radius in there, and that radius for the big, let's see if I can show this, you miss the edges of it. So the smaller radius lets you get in right there, and while I'm at it, I'm seeing that if I take my time, I can do the whole bar in one shot. So that's a nice little upgrade from what we did on the other wheel. This is working better than what I did the first time. And here in fast forward, I was using this to take the lettering off, and this is a big job getting that lettering to be smooth. Now those little bits did seem to work pretty well, and of course this is 180 grit, that industrial Norton paper. This will get plenty of good scratches in this. The whole idea is to have it just etched enough that that first coat of primer gets a good bite. So it's taken time, but we've gone from this lettering to where I take my hand, I cannot feel any imperfections there. So what the next thing is get the wire brush and work one area, one triangle at a time here. And I'm just looking here if there's any other, well, I want to get down in there. I'm trying to do this in a way that it breaks the job up into several small jobs, not try to do the whole thing at once. And it doesn't matter because the hub is going to be a big job too. But I'll know more once I work on this, and this is an area, of course, that you're going to see where the discs end. You see this just like you see on the wheel that's already finished. And you always see the light reflecting off of those spokes. That's the whole reason for doing this, so that the light reflects more like what a machined wheel would be, not a cast wheel. And so far that one, if we can just replicate that one, I'll be pretty happy. And we can start with the soft wire brush. This will get in all of what I'm trying to show, is to get in all the corners and edges as much as possible. And again, the problem with all of this stuff, every one of the steps that I'm showing just takes time. If we did this whole thing in fast forward, it would be fine, but each one of those segments is going to require a chunk of time. And that's the way I try to break the job up into several smaller pieces. Now, by using fast forward on a lot of this, I'm able to make the video that people don't fall asleep or put a gun to their head in the middle of the video. But anyway, this is where it starts getting really labor intensive, and it gets a little boring, and it's always good to break up the job and take some breaks and do some other things, or play some loud music or whatever, because it really truly turns into a labor of love. So that's basically the machine part I can do. And I usually check with my hand. Now this area here I've got to sand by hand, and down in here I have to sand by hand. There's no way, the drill is always at a 45-degree angle, so there's always a certain amount of this you have to do by hand. But the overall thing is, when we got one segment done, I'll move on to the next segment. I'm still waiting for Karen to make a decision what we're going to do here, but in the meantime, I can get a couple, maybe one or two of these segments done. Some parts of this, the sanding stick is really a useful tool. I've shown this on almost every one of the other wheel videos. Now that gives me a nice edge. That allows me to get right down in there. It also allows me to get in areas that my fingers normally wouldn't reach. And the 180 sandpaper is just about rough enough that the primer gets a great bond. And then from that point on, it self-levels and I can sand the primer. Now another thing important as I'm going along, I don't want any razor edges. Anything that's sharp, I want to break the edge. A sharp edge means that paint is going to try to crack there, and that's where you can have a potential problem. So basically we got one segment done here, and Karen has told me it's time. We got to head out to do our errands, so we'll get back to this either this afternoon or tomorrow. And there's just no substitute on a job this big and this long. Well, the more you break it up, I think the quicker it goes, and that's the way I've always approached this kind of a job. As we head out, you can imagine, it's just a winter wonderland here. Errand day is always so funny. We have to stock up. More snow is coming. And this is the big one we love. Our trip to BJ's. We always love getting our inventory. Oh, what a day. What a day. Looks like more snow is coming. Good to be back. I'll never go hungry again. We got enough Cheerios to last a lifetime. You might be wondering, he drinks a lot of coffee. Does he buy a case at a time? What do you think? Now, this is one of the real secrets of restoring motorcycles. You have to have a separate cabinet in your house for 100 pounds of coffee. We have a separate coffee cabinet. Can you believe that? And that is the BJ's coffee that Karen prefers, and the truth is we do buy it by the case and drink it by the gallon. And that really is how you turbocharge your day. So here's the whole thing. This one, I got two segments done. Not done. But the rim here, I noticed the rim, Dallas probably knows this, the rim has some kind of clear epoxy coating on it to keep it from corroding. And getting it off to where I have scratches in it, it's quite a job. Took a little longer than I thought. The wire brush, soft wire brush, does take it off. So we do have two segments done. But what I've noticed is some of the jobs with this wheel, now this is very different than the rear wheel. There's parts of this job where I want the wheel vertical, and it's very easy while I'm just standing at the bench here to work that area. Now I'm sure it'll be the same here because I'll be able to get these things vertical. A lot of times getting in a job like this, getting a part in position so you can work on it is half of the job. And a lot of parts of this job, especially this type of stuff, very easy to do when the wheel is vertical like this and not moving around, not jumping around. And a combination of these little grinders and that wire brush, and believe me, you need a lot of them to do this. It really is working to my advantage. This is going, well, a little bit faster than the other one. But again, the spokes are different, and I know these flats, they're going to be visible. I want to put a lot of time into getting these really, even when I do the final thing, will be the hand sanding to get this all nice little mirrors of light when it reflects when the wheel turns. This position here is very good for doing a lot of these things. Because another thing that's in your advantage here, the light is right where it should be, so you don't get any shadows. So as messy and dirty as a job this is, and you can see, you could write your name in the tire here. This, if it's were summer, or we could be outside, it'd be nice, all that stuff would be blowing away. But now, what I did, and I segmented it out. I did all the outsides, all of these. Now the only part left is the inside. Not sure how the day is going to play out because we have other things we have to do today. But what the big thing that I've learned about doing these type of jobs, you don't do it all at once, and that's why I always work in the winter. So I'm not under any pressure to get this done under some time window, some fake time window. But all of the lettering is off, and that was a big job. All of the little details here, they're ready for the hand sanding part, and the inside part here. I'm not sure when I'm going to get back to doing that, but I know right now I need another coffee break. This job is so big, I'm at the end of the second cup of coffee. But that job will get done today. I'll get that one side finished. Now back in the shop. With all of that done, now in here, a lot of this has to be done by hand. I don't know how much of this I'm going to be able to get done with that little Dremel tool. But luckily, this is not a part you see very easily. It's kind of concealed by the disc. But I do want to get as much of the casting flattened down. In fact, maybe I'll do that all with the wire brush. The more I can get done. See, I'd like it to be like this. This is the casting part that I've already done a lot of work on and flattened it out. But again, I'm trying to, another thing I always concentrate on is spend most of the time on the parts you really see. Now see how much of that comes off with the wire brush. That wire brush really does a good job, but it just takes time. There's just no magic thing like no magic tool that does everything. You've got to use a variety of wire brushes and tools and Dremels and to get it all done. I just want to go over this with the Dremel tool with the sandpaper a little bit before I attack this by hand with some sandpaper. It looks like I've got these spots down here you're really not going to see, but I know these I want to spend extra time on these inner spokes because you do get to see them. There's just no way that light hits that every time the wheel turns. And even when you don't have a lot of light, when you're down in the cellar with one fluorescent light burning, the light reflecting off the wheel is the whole reason for doing this. And a Dremel tool, and here we are in fast forward again. The Dremel tool does a real good job of this, but you wear out an awful lot of those sanding drums. And I don't know any other way you could do this. There may be a tool that's made for this, but it's not something a person like me would own. Maybe a professional would have it. That is probably all I'm going to be able to do with the machine. The rest of this is going to be by hand. And of course, like everything else with a job like this, labor intensive, labor of love, or labor of labor. Maybe it's some of each. Now, as always, at the end of every machine step is the last little bit you have to do by hand. And needless to say, this is time consuming. That's all there is to it. But in the end, and it's really nice that I have that other wheel over there to look at to kind of inspire me to stick with it and don't be a baby and just run off and drink more coffee. The stick works great. All you have to do is just keep moving the end of the stick until we get to that paper. The 180 seems like about the best choice. Well, it worked out good on the other wheel, so there's no reason to get too creative. But there is a coating on the clear part of that wheel, and I'm sure everybody that has one of these or done one of these jobs, if you've ever taken a GS and tried to polish the side cover, you know exactly what that is. Anyway, this is no point in letting the camera run. We're going to be this will be, the rest of what we do today is just all the hand sanding. And when we're done, I will sleep good tonight, knowing that all that coffee's in the cabinet. So, of course, the ultimate objective, anytime I'm doing anything like this, the ultimate objective is everything has to have a scratch etch surface. And again, if you're putting this amount of time and energy into a project, you don't want any risk that what's going to happen. You're going to wind up with a bubble in the paint or a part where it lifts or whatever. But let's hope that doesn't happen. Now, I'm being real meticulous when I do the hand sanding. And a lot of times I think, well, I'll spend an hour sanding or half an hour or whatever. And then I see I'm not real happy with it. I will spend the time. Now, I learned, and it's a hard lesson to learn, but once you learn it, you got it for life. If you get the paint, no matter how good it is, and it doesn't adhere, this is the foundation of the house. You build the most beautiful house in the world, but if you build a foundation out of marshmallows, just not worth it. Now, I always wish that when it's in fast forward like this, I wish I could work like this and it was real time. But anyway, the hand sanding at the end of the day is always the most laborious thing. Getting in all the edges and corners and angles and trying to find any sharp spot, try to get radius any sharp spot. Just a ton of extra hand labor. But boy, when you're done, it really came out great. This has been a really long day. I didn't expect it was going to go this long, but we're right at the halfway point now. One side is done. Actually, this is the hard side. I mean, tomorrow's side will be easier. The reason is we don't have the lettering to deal with. That lettering was a big thing. So we have one side done. One side still to be done. So basically, if you got nothing to do tonight, you can come over and I'll leave the door unlocked and you can sand. I'm sure Luciano's in line right now to come over and sand this out. This was a pretty productive day. Getting this much done today really was a labor of love. I don't know how to say it. I am exhausted. I'm going to sleep like a baby tonight and dream about that cabinet full of coffee. Anyway, just in case there's a nuclear war, I'll have the market cornered on coffee. Anyway, I want to thank the healthcare workers. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to be alive, my family to be well, and we really do appreciate all your efforts. So we're going to pick this up tomorrow, do the other side, and guys, thank you so much for watching. Now, we do try to post up something new or exciting every day. Some days it's more exciting than others. Today was tiring, not exciting. But I know I got all that coffee. Now, I decided to end this video with a few photos I took during my trip to Daytona Bike Week. Stayed with Ray Straub. And these are just a few of maybe 500 pictures that I have. We went to a bike auction. That was a load of laughs. An outdoor, indoor, both a mammoth munch. And I'm just hitting the highlights here because this was a wonderful trip. I stayed with Ray and a fellow named Scott. We stayed right in Daytona, right on his private house. And some of the bikes at this auction were to die for. This really was a great trip. And wish I was in the market to buy a bike and had some money, of course. They had a lot of stuff for sale. Luciano would have had his head spinning. But anyway, the Daytona, we went to the dirt bike races, we went to the road races, but the biggest thing we went to, and like I said, I have thousands of pictures. I try to just hit the highlights. We went to the show on where you sit on a lawn chair on the main road of town, and all the guys with the unusual, let's call them unusual bikes go by. One was like a dragon. I was more interested in being in the pits down at the road races and seeing some of the professional riders. We got some autographs, we got some pictures, and got to see some of the people that I have known over my lifetime of being excellent riders. Good seeing them in real life.
It's amazing if you haven't seen the pits of a real AMA road race. It's absolutely unbelievable. This was a CBX the guy had modified. Take a close look at this. This is like a one-of-a-kind handmade bike. Like I said, the races at night were just unbelievable. We went to the races at night and the races during the day. It was an incredible experience, and Ray, thank you so much for hosting me. This was part of the trip. This was the fellow we stayed with, Scott. This is his personal car. Is Ray and my late friend Artie Thomas and Scott. And some of the people he had. He took us for a ride in that F40. It was a lot of laughs. And we got to ride each other's bikes. We rode all across Florida. But the biggest thing is this is the bike. Used to be my race bike in the 70s. Ray had restored it. Not restored it, used it. I restored it. He brought it back up to Jersey a year later. I think in 2010 we restored it. I've posted pictures of it for many times. When it's all brand new, it really was an incredible bike. And it got me back into wanting a two-stroke, which Karen bought me one on the next Valentine's Day. So I hope you did enjoy the video and these little outtake pictures we have. We like to share them. They're all out on my computer. And thanks so much for watching.